Kev, is there going to be music as I say this?
No, dude.
Oh my
I am
God.
so, man, I am hanging by a thread. I had one of those nights. It was a Friday night deadline. We're up till midnight getting a core filing in. It was
Oh, I
nuts.
thought it was like a deadline for your Husky preview.
No, no, no.
Oh,
I'm
okay, okay,
totally back in, man.
okay, okay.
This
You're
sucked me
doing
back.
real lawyer stuff.
Yeah, this sucked me back in.
All right.
So,
Well,
anyways,
that's
that's a
real.
horrible way to start this show.
Why? This is life, man. This is what
Yeah.
life is, you know? This is what life is, Kev. You're a dad,
Uh,
you're a lawyer, you're a writer, you're a podcaster.
yeah, dude.
25th episode.
You know who I'm not? I'm not Jordan Morris. I'm not Stephen Fry.
Man, it's incredible. Let's get into it. Let's make sure everybody knows who we are. I'm Brian Elsner, and this is Kevin Cucabellis. This is the Wait for It Seattle podcast,
Episode 25, which you've already said, but I'm saying it again
the
because
Richard Sherman episode.
that's a
Let's
quarter
go.
away from 100. It's impressive.
Wingstop owner Richard Sherman. Did you know? Can I tell you a quick story?
Did you
My
meet Richard Sherman?
No, but my wife loves Richard Sherman. Like that was her favorite Seahawk in the glory days. So
Yeah.
she has a wolf gray Sherman jersey. She's like, I don't know if you remember this. I think you
Yeah.
were living in Seattle, but like when the Seahawks were good, like Blue
Yeah.
Fridays were a thing. Like
Yeah.
everybody wore the jerseys. People
Yeah.
were rocking Seahawks gear left and right. So everybody got a jersey, right? So
Yeah.
Dana got a jersey. She got a Sherman jersey. He opened the Wingstop right by her house, like 2 blocks away. I don't know if he is anymore, but he was the co-owner of the Wingstop. And he was there for the opening. And she went down there and he signed her jersey.
She
And
has a
then
signed Sherman.
and
Well,
she just
that is
rocks it.
so
She just rocks
cool.
it. She just wears
Yeah.
it, which is cool. There
Yeah.
was a couple years where it was like, Sherman had a couple
Yeah.
weird things, the law. He was
Yeah.
also a Niner, but like he's back, baby. We all
Yeah.
love Sherm again, right?
Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime.
Yeah, he's on
Not
our
that they
top
need any
top 10,
promotion.
right? Isn't he in
Yeah.
our top 10?
Yeah.
Or maybe he's top
Um,
15. Anyway.
If you go to my Venmo profile, and if
Oh.
anyone wants to donate to my Venmo, it's at Kevin Cocabellos
Yeah,
dash Kevin
after we
Cocabellos.
just talked about you being a lawyer, people are
Yeah.
gonna run to donate to your Venmo. But go ahead.
My profile picture is me, Richard Sherman, and Cam Chancellor at the Seattle Storm game.
That's cool.
So it is the weirdest thing, and I've never chose to change it because I just think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I like it.
Um, anyways, random trivia about my life. Not that you need more. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it. We're gonna change our opening segment to 3 points.
3 points. It's basketball season.
Yes.
And
Famous three-point shooters in Seattle history. Kevin, go.
Ryan Appleby, Ray Allen,
I knew you'd lead with Appleby.
um,
I'll do my age here. Dale Ellis,
CJ Wilcox. Sorry, keep
CJ
on going.
Wilcox. Let's go, baby. Kelsey Plum. Uh, Talia
Yeah.
Walton, new Seattle Prep girls basketball coach. Shout out.
Sue Bird had a nice
11
3-point shot
threes
as well.
in a Final Four game. Sue Bird was an
Yeah.
awesome three-point shooter.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. She would just kill people at the end of games.
Yep.
All right. 3 points. First points. You alluded to this. Wow, the Sounders really came out of nowhere.
Yeah. It was quite an exciting game.
It
I
was
came
great.
home after watching Santa Clara lose again, and then I turned on
Did
the
they lose to
Sounders.
Stanford?
They lost to Stanford. It was a wall fog game, but they just seemed to collapse in the last 2 minutes
Brutal.
of every
Let's
game.
not talk about it.
Yeah. Did you watch the whole thing?
I did.
So I watched the latter half when I got home and then the extra time. What'd you think?
So the first half, the announcers, I think Taylor Twellman was a color commentator who some people like, some people I like him. I think he really knows soccer. He knows the MLS and he cares about the MLS. So that's one thing I like in an MLS playoff matchup. And he's like, LAFC is explosive offensively. I mean, they're insane.
Yeah.
And he's like, the Sounders did this in 2019. They built a house-shaped formation to try and keep LAFC having to play to the wings, which some teams want to do, but apparently LAFC does not necessarily. And so the first half, it was like perfection. The LAFC had no shots on goal. It was incredible, but it was 0-0. The Sounders had no chances, but they were kind of playing them, in a boring style that might win the game. And then the second half was once LAFC scored on a nice goal, it was really open. I think LAFC ended up with 10 shots on goal, all in the second half. But it came down to Stephen Fry, as you said, 8 saves, amazing performance, just ridiculous.
Can you believe he still hasn't won? This is the post game
Yeah.
Spencer was saying, stumping for him. He goes, get on the bandwagon. How is he not won goalkeeper of the year?
Yeah.
Also, I looked at where we ranked him. in the top 100. We have him at 65. It feels a little low now, but maybe that's just reactionary.
Hey, keepers are hard, like I don't know. You don't get excited about a keeper until they have a performance like this. And
Yes.
the thing with Fry is he's had these magical playoff moments. That's what they
Yeah.
keep talking about. He's so good in the playoffs,
Yeah.
at least in the years they make their runs, right? But then Jordan Morris had a moment as well. I mean, that goal was sick.
Just turned around and just shot it. Like
Yeah.
it was almost like a kind of I was watching the replay and it's kind of like you have those instinctual moments as an athlete that definitely looked like it. Like he was
Yep.
just playing off of feel. It wasn't just like premeditated or
Yep.
anything.
It
Like how
was,
else do you score that? Yeah.
only really good goal scorers can do it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in the read before it to let the ball travel on the ground to the outside to get the angle is
Yeah.
so subtle and so good. It's so fun to watch.
But he wasn't like so he when he turned around, like he has basically like kind of like a split second
Yeah,
to
he had no
fit it
vision.
within
He
the
knew where he
window.
was going to
Yeah.
kick it, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so in some respects, I don't want to take
Yeah.
away from it. He knew where he was going. Like, did he know exactly the place there? No, he was going for a spot and
Yeah.
he hit it perfectly and it was amazing. It
That's
was
a
pretty
goal
cool.
scorer.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they face the LA Galaxy, who won 6-2 today, and they have to travel back to LA for 7 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah.
I did a little research, as one does who's on a podcast. I actually heard this interview by Schmetzer on the radio earlier this year when they were going to face LA. It was on KJR, and Jackson Feltz, who does a great job with the Softy, talked about the Galaxy have this three-headed scoring monster. Like they just have three dudes who score a bunch of goals. And Schmetzer is like, you have to stop the head of the monster. So Ricky Puig has 13 goals, but he's a distributor. He's not Messi, right? Nobody's
Yeah.
Messi, but like in terms of the ability to distribute, the ability to score, the focus of the offense, he's that. And this was earlier in the year, but I'm imagining it's the same.
Yeah.
They're going to try and stop him. And they have two other good goal scorers, but everything comes from Ricky Puig, who's a really, really good player, really skilled.
And by the way, the teams are the Sounders and the Galaxy against each other are 1-1-1.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
it's truly like the rubber match.
Yep. The cool part, if they can pull it off, they will host the MLS Cup. Because the Eastern Conference teams, because Miami got knocked out and everybody got knocked out on the East, they're all lower points than the Sounders. So I might have to go if the Sounders go to the MLS Cup. I mean, why wouldn't I go? So
yeah.
Let's go Sounders.
Yeah, so we go through these ups and downs of Seattle sports. Oh my goodness. The hottest team in the NFC West. Your first place.
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks, who own the tiebreaker over the Arizona Cardinals, who they beat today.
Yep.
In a raucous defensive focused performance.
What did you just say? Did you say real words? What were those words?
I don't know, man. My man.
Were you trying to say raucous?
Raucous? Raucous?
I don't know what raucous means.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like something's rotten in your body.
I feel like Leonard Williams just hit me and I just have a concussion, so it didn't come out right.
Bob Condotta, in his recap in the Seattle Times tonight, said it might be one of the best defensive line performances in Seahawks history.
Yeah.
I don't want to pat myself on the back, but yeah, I do actually. I'm going to do it right now. 3 takeaways from last week. I think one of my takeaways, if I remember correctly, Kev,
was Leonard Williams.
We need to appreciate him. This was before he went out and had 6 tackles, including 2.5 sacks against Kyler Murray.
Stop him.
Oh my God.
Oh, there's that one where Kyler Murray kept on backing up and Leonard Williams just sandwiched him.
It was incredible. He was a force. It was I can't wait to see the Pro Football Focus scores tomorrow for that performance. I mean, it's going to be through the roof. But not only did they have 5 sacks as a team, which was a great day, they held James Conner, who's had a great season at the running back position, 7 carries, 8 yards.
You know, they didn't run for a first down all game.
That's an awesome stat.
Yeah.
That's awesome. For a team, for the Seahawks who were struggling, right? So I wrote some stuff down. So 4 games ago, the Buffalo Bills waxed us. James Cook, 17 carries, 111 yards. And it just felt like we're never going to stop the run again. Then actually Kyron Williams and the Rams, that game where we lost, it was 22 carries, 69 yards, which is 3.1 per carry. They did okay, but they weren't providing any pressure on the quarterback. They had 0 sacks. Stafford was dicing us. We still could have won that game. We're in it. Then they
Yeah.
have the bye week. They come back. They got to face McCaffrey. He goes 19 for 79, which let me tell you,
Against
I
McCaffrey.
I looked at all the McCaffrey games against the Seahawks. I wrote about it.
Yeah.
That's a great performance for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And then they pulled out the win. And then today against James Conner, 7 for 8. Come on.
This is all to say they fired their starting linebacker two
Yeah.
weeks ago, which is
Yeah.
nuts. Like
Yeah. They are
he,
now rolling Ernest Jones, who they traded for, who everybody seems to love.
yeah,
Julian Love called him like an incredible player. And
yeah,
then they're rolling out the rookie, Tyrese Knight, who I read he had 3 tackles among the first 4 plays today, including a
yeah,
sack. So they're doing that. I think the challenge with those guys, Ernest Jones is not known for his pass coverage. So if you think about linebackers dropping back on those middle routes, well, Trey McBride had 12 catches today at tight end position. And I think that's where they got to find something still, is
yeah,
those type of guys. But I mean, they did great against Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler looks scared. The game
yeah,
should have been a blowout. If Geno doesn't throw the pick at the end zone, a terrible decision,
yeah,
it's not close. Cardinals
yeah.
scored
And
6 points.
it's kind of like the offense is so inconsistent, even if the offensive line is performing okay. And I think that
Yeah.
was today's game. They performed okay. And Geno Smith just channels his Russell Wilson, I guess. I don't get what it is, but he just pulls off these drives. Like this 8-minute drive at the very end in the fourth quarter where they kind of sealed the game with the was the Jason Myers field goal.
Yeah.
There were a
Can I
couple.
talk about something in that I thought was
Yeah.
interesting? I was listening
Yeah.
on the radio, so I wasn't watching it, but
Yeah.
they had a 3rd and 7, and they handed it off to Charbonnet, and he got 4 yards. And then Myers made a 50-yard field goal.
In the rain.
And that's an interesting, maybe underrated, awesome coaching move by McDonald.
Why is
They're up,
that?
well, they're up 13-6, right?
Mhm.
It's literally 2 minutes left when they kick the field goal. It's a 2-minute warning. Cardinals had 2 timeouts, but if you go up 10, the game's over.
Yeah.
Right? It would have to be a freak circumstance for them to score twice in 2 minutes, right? Onside kick, all that stuff. So maybe it's conservative, but they run it. That gets them to the 2-minute warning. Obviously, they make the field goal. The game's over. If they pass it and don't get it, or Geno gets sacked like he did, I think the possession before when they gave up their field position, then they don't get a field goal and it's a totally different game. So I think, a critic could say it's pretty conservative. But when it works, you got to give him credit. It's an underrated move to run a running play on 3rd and 7 to get the yards so you can get a manageable field goal.
Yeah, and
It's kind of awesome.
unfortunately, I do think that a lot of these games, these are the games that matter now, like
Yeah.
that matter like exponentially more than maybe the first 30 wins, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Because now teams are settling in. And I was listening to a Bill Belichick podcast episode like maybe 2 months ago, and he made this comment about, I don't care about how these teams look these first 5, 6
Yeah.
games. It's really the last 5 to 6 games which will tell you which teams are the true contenders in the playoffs. And the
Yeah.
Seahawks aren't playoff contenders. They can maybe make the playoffs, but I don't see them
Right.
as a playoff contending team. But if the identity is starting to form a little bit,
Totally. I
right?
was going to
Like,
say,
and
like,
that's what's exciting.
yeah, having McDonald have that success
Yeah.
and build it and, yeah, get rid of his linebackers who they brought in and just rebuild it on the fly. And JSN's emergence as a number one, all this stuff is cool to see because it's not his roster yet and it's not his identity. So if they can do something now, and if they could sneak out the NFC West, which is actually possible, we said this, they had to sweep these 2 games. There's no way in hell I thought it was going to happen, right? But they did it. So now they're 6-5, tied with the Cardinals. Rams lost, Niners lost. Niners got smoked. Obviously, they did not have Bosa, Trent Williams, or Brock Purdy today.
Yeah.
But they're 5-6. The Niners go to Buffalo next week. Buffalo is the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. So now the Niners are going to be 5-7. Like, wow, that's crazy. Arizona goes to Minnesota. the Rams are at the Saints, and then Seattle's at the Jets. And then the week after, Seattle goes to Arizona again. So in some ways, I think the Seahawks could actually go lose at the Jets. And as long as they beat the Cardinals in 2 weeks, they're still in the control of the
Yeah.
division, which is
Well,
crazy.
here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
You need to keep on writing your previews. I don't care what you write in them, but keep on writing the previews because every week you've written a preview the past 2 weeks, the Seahawks have won.
Okay. Well, correlation and causation, same thing. Same thing. I did say I will, again, wow, this is a toot my own horn podcast. I said the player to watch on offense is Trey McBride, their tight end. He had 12 catches. So yeah, read the stuff. Come on.
We're pretty good.
Yeah, we're
once you
we're good
start
enough.
watching every single game, you start to notice things. It's actually kind of interesting.
And Kev, big week for the Huskies, but we're not going to talk about Husky football. We're going to talk on our third point, which doesn't really make sense. 3-pointer or third point, whatever. Husky men's basketball. Are you worried?
Yeah. Hey, they're 3-0. They could be 0-3.
What are you talking about? They're 4-1.
They're 4-1. Who they lose to?
They lost to Nevada on the road. You talked about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay. You did get concussed.
Alcorn State.
They've won their last 3 against Seattle Pacific, UMass Lowell, and Alcorn State. Now let's talk about those games really quick.
Yeah. I want to say Acorn State. So
it's not. Alcorn State is in KenPom, the 355th rated team out of 364 Division I teams. They're 0-7. I don't know how they could be worse.
Where do you think Alcorn State is located in the United States?
New York.
That's your guess. Let's see.
North Carolina.
Mississippi. No way. It's an HBCU, the nation's oldest land grant HBCU. Everyone's learning something on this podcast.
That's great. They also are terrible at basketball, but not against the Huskies because they were only down 2 at halftime. They ended up losing by 17, but their average defeat was by 26 or something before that. UMass Lowell, who Gonzaga beat 113-54. The Huskies won by 5. Now, UMass Lowell is better than that Gonzaga score.
Yeah.
They actually almost went to the tournament last year. They're 125th in KenPom, which I'm guessing is better than the Santa Clara University. But then the game before that, the Huskies played Seattle Pacific, who is not Division I, and were losing by 9 at halftime. All this to say, they're not playing good teams at all, and they don't look good.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only explanation that I have because I think there is talent on the team. And usually in these non-conference cupcakes, you can just out-talent a team like Alcorn State and win, usually by 20 points. And to be fair, they did beat Alcorn State by 17 points. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. I think that, but here's what's going to be worrisome. If we're talking in a month and they're still squeaking out games, or they've actually started to lose these games and the team looks the same, right?
Well, will it even be a month? I don't think it'll be a month by the time they're playing big time games.
Yeah.
They play UCLA on December 3rd.
Yeah.
Because they have so many Big Ten games. They're into the real deal.
Here's my hope. I mean, this is the glass half full prognosis is maybe they just play to the level of the team they're playing, right? And you've seen that probably as a coach where this team can come. I mean, Great Osabor against Alcorn State, 8 points and 4 rebounds in 29 minutes. That's horrible. Tyler Harris literally won the game for them. NBA prospect Tyler Harris, 27 points.
It's your guy.
Yeah, 27 points, 8 rebounds. Like, if he doesn't show up to that game, the Huskies lose to Alcorn State. So, I don't know. I'm not too worried yet, but I think the UCLA game, if they lose by 30 points, I think it's going to be a long, long season.
Well, they go down to Palm Springs, which is where I wanted to go for Thanksgiving to go watch because Santa Clara is one of the 4 teams down there. So maybe they'll play Santa Clara and we'll truly know.
Well, this is what'll happen.
Which team is worse?
Santa Clara will be winning by like 5 points. There'll be 2 minutes to go, and the Huskies will come and beat them because that's how Santa Clara's like.
Awesome. All right. Well, those are 3 points. That's what we got this week. We're gonna now hear. We're gonna talk a little hockey, Kev.
I love in-depth hockey analysis.
I think you actually do.
I
You know,
do. It
you're a
was
lifelong
so
learner.
enjoyable.
Yeah, you're a
Yeah.
lifelong learner, and I think you're gonna really start to love hockey soon if you don't already. So, someone who will make you love it quickly and will be an awesome listen for everybody is Mel Harrow. Mel Harrow is the head coach of UW women's hockey. We had her on to talk about UW women's hockey and a little Kraken and how you can support the University of Washington women's hockey team. So we're going to listen to Mel, and then we'll be back with our top 5 to wrap it up. All right, we're very excited to welcome Mel Harrow, who is the head coach of the University of Washington women's hockey team. Mel and I used to work together. She's one of my favorite people, and so we're really excited to have her. Welcome, Mel.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Kev, I want to let you know real quick that we're not Mel's debut on a Seattle sports podcast. I found a 58-minute interview on YouTube.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're not going 58 minutes with Mel. No offense, Mel, but she was really good. So this is not her first time. All right, Mel. So I think we'll start just, we have Seattle sports listeners here. We kind of told you before we started recording that we have no idea how many people actually listen, but we have fun with it. I don't know how many people would know that UW has a women's hockey team. So tell us how that came about / like how it fits within the sort of UW sports landscape.
Yeah. So I absolutely love this team. And so we started actually about 4 years ago, and it started with 2 students in class just chatting. Like, one of them was, I miss playing hockey. Another one grew up on the pond in like Finland playing with her brothers. And typical college class, they started talking about hockey, and they just go, well, let's just start a team. They have no idea where this is going, but they start forming the team, getting interested players, like everything ranging from players from like Boston who have full playing experience to players with like no playing experience at all. So we had our first like practice in May of, it was just after COVID. It's like 2021. And it was just like 12 of us out on the ice. And then fast forward to the next year, we fielded a full team, again, still mixed with like players who either like had played a little bit of hockey, but then lost it because they didn't really find a place for them, and then realized that their college has a team, and it was like a team of all women. And that first year launched, and it was me and a couple other coaches, and luckily still all the same coaching staff. And then fast forward to we finally submitted our application to be in the ACHA, which is the American College Hockey Association. So to kind of break that down, it's more than like just a normal kind of club intramural, because you get to play for playoffs and national championships. And so it's also not quite NCAA. So you're in this kind of middle ground of like a formal sport that you're playing for your school, but you're not that NCAA varsity status. And so we practice twice a week at the Kraken Community Iceplex. We have games, and over the summer, we got word that we could join the ACHA in a probationary status. Hopefully we'll just be in Division I full-time ACHA after this year. And that was one of our goals from the start, was to join that league. And we are then the only women's college hockey team in the Pacific Northwest and really the West Coast. So our next closest team is Montana State, like Denver, ASU. So that's who we get to play. But while we do that, we also have kind of a like grassroots practice team program. So we still welcome players who have never played hockey before. You don't have to have any experience. You can still come onto the ice and play. So we actually have 2 teams. We have our like travel team, and then we have our practice team. So the mission of the founders was to keep encouraging more women to play hockey and create an inclusive space. And that's what we're still doing. And we're going to keep doing it we're just going to keep doing it.
Kev, it's amazing. This is Mel's other job. Like,
Yeah,
this is not her main job. And what she described is a full-time job. Is that fair?
You're doing more than just showing up to coach. You're essentially running a program. Am I wrong about that?
No. How it kind of works at this club hockey level is there's a group of players on the team who are like the club officers, and they do all the communication with the university. So the university basically doesn't want to talk to me. They want to talk to the students who are organizing the kind of behind the scenes. But then the ACHA doesn't talk to the students. They talk to me. So then it's me working a lot with my leaders to, set up like game schedules, all the small details like Elsner, you remember, like making sure officials are there, getting volunteers for like this clock, all these things. So I work really tightly with my like officers to do that, in addition to do like all the practice planning and setting up drills, games, everything in between. And so this is really my like second job.
So your time in high school athletics helped you very much with the making sure you have officials and scorekeepers, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So I was looking up the ACHA status because I saw that on the Instagram. By the way, on the official website, you look very tough in the picture. So nice job. But your schedule isn't up on the website. Did you know this?
Yeah. So our schedule this year is a little bit funky because we're playing like a mix of all these women's teams and a mix of these like official games against Montana State, Denver, Colorado State University. And so it's our schedule is definitely a little bit funky and in flex, and we will get that fixed.
Gotcha. No. I wasn't trying to call you out. I was trying to make sure people knew where to find it.
Yes.
The Instagram really is where they should go.
Go to Instagram.
Yeah. We want to plug it really fast. Mel, what's the Instagram handle for people?
Women's Hockey UW.
Yep. You search that, you'll find it. Okay, so the ACHA, this is like University of Colorado's in there, right? Arizona State, right? You said. Yep. So these are colleges people have heard of. It's not, small hockey colleges that nobody's heard of. This is big time schools that aren't playing NCAA, which is pretty limited. Am I right in that? Like NCAA doesn't have that many schools for women's hockey still, or is it?
So it's all East Coast and Midwest. So think of like your Big Ten schools. Well, actually, only a few of them have women's hockey. But
like Ohio State won last year. Did I say that right?
Ohio State, Wisconsin, Boston U, Boston College, Northeastern, like, your East Coast big schools, your Midwest schools.
Yeah.
So really, it is pretty all condensed to not anywhere near us.
Yeah. Okay, so now you have this status within 4 years, which I'm sure felt awesome to have this now. What is the kind of next goal for you in the program, do you think?
Yeah, so our next goal is just to like officially be locked in. So the ACHA has 2 divisions for women's hockey, Division 1 and 2. And so we want to be fully into Division 1. And, we're working with the ACHA and kind of the Western division on that right now. And so then from there, it's like, okay, we've got our program established, we're getting recruits. And so then it's really starting to make a mark and continue to prove that there's the ability to play great hockey in the Pacific Northwest. It's really odd because it feels like Seattle is such a hockey island, even though we're 3 hours away from Vancouver, which like you go into Canada and, you've got ice rinks 10 minutes away from each other. And so, which is great for recruiting purposes from us to get to be able to just pull some hockey players right on down. But it feels really weird in the grand scheme of things that Seattle is so kind of siloed. And so we want to just continue to prove that we belong in the ACHA. We're going to be competitive and start to kind of show up on people's radars.
What do you mean by I'm interested in the recruiting piece?
I knew you were going to ask that.
I have to ask, right?
Kevin
because
loves recruiting.
You're not, you're not the football team handing out scholarships. You're a club team on campus. So can you explain that to people that might not be familiar? Like, what does recruiting look like from a club team perspective?
Yeah. So believe it or not, there is like full on recruiting in club sports without money though. So that's the downside, right? Is like, you're not only asking and trying to convince people to come play, but often you're also asking them to continue to pay to play. So club sports are fully funded by students and then sponsors. And if you're lucky, you can get some grant money from the school. And each university runs it differently. And so really, I'm like emailing and messaging out and putting out recruiting forms that are like, have you applied to UW? What's your hockey experience? Like connecting with youth hockey organizations and encouraging people to show up and play. So we run a prospect camp every year for high school student athletes. So everyone comes there and they get to meet me. They get to meet the team. We run them through a couple practices and then we scrimmage. And that's like our major recruiting event. And then we stay in touch with everyone throughout the course of the year and track like who's applied, who's still interested. And we just keep inviting them back to things and sending out like weekly or not weekly, monthly, like newsletters to keep in touch with recruits. But yeah, it's a whole other part of
I'm
it.
shaking my head in disbelief. Let me just remind everyone that's listening, this is not your day job, right?
Yeah.
No, I actually
it's
don't get paid at all. I'm
yeah,
a
it's
volunteer.
you're full on volunteer. That's incredible. Okay.
I told you, Mel's awesome. Mel's incredible. Mel, I want to connect to something you said before so people can know a little bit about your journey. I know we've talked before, but you talk about availability of rinks, and you and I have had conversations about, I think it was called the Highland Ice Rink
Yeah.
up on Aurora that's no longer there, right? And is that where you grew up playing, if I remember right?
Yeah, so I grew up playing out of that rink and then a rink in Kirkland called Snow King Ice Arena.
Okay.
So I started playing at 7 years old, played, I mean, it was co-ed, but it was always called boys hockey. It's still pretty much called boys hockey. And so I grew up playing with the boys up until I hit about high school. And then in high school, there was one girls travel team here in Seattle. We pulled from like all over the greater Seattle area. I had a couple teammates from Bellingham. And so we would practice here at Highland. And then we would travel every weekend to Canada to play in our league because there are a few leagues popping up now, but there were at the time no women's or girls hockey leagues in Washington, Oregon, or California.
So so you said there's a couple leagues. So for women's hockey, it's growing, but maybe not at the rate that we're seeing with basketball and soccer right now, right?
Totally. And
Yeah.
I think part of that is there are just some, natural barriers to hockey. Like you're not getting out a stick and puck and skates in like PE class, right? Like you're getting a basketball that's easy to get a hold of, soccer ball, like everyone in Seattle plays soccer because it's so accessible. And so I think there are some natural barriers that do prevent people from just like picking up and diving into hockey.
Did you have anyone in your family playing hockey? Because the people I've met playing hockey have always had someone in their family that's played, and that's how it's been passed down. And it hasn't been something where it's like, oh, I'm interested in hockey. Like I'm just going to sign up for camps and, try it out. What's your story?
Mine's totally random. So my dad is from the East Coast, but he actually didn't grow up playing hockey. I mean, like he would go skate on the pond, but that actually had no like influence on me playing hockey. So I was just actually, as a little kid, watching it on TV one day and was like, hey, mom, dad, that's the sport I want to try.
You are the example.
Yep.
And they're like, sure. Like luckily my parents never stopped any of me or my siblings from playing sports, but I'm sure they had like no idea what they were getting into when they were like, yeah, let's sign our daughter up for hockey. Where do we even start? Like, where is there hockey here? And then it just happened to be the sport that stuck.
So Mel, you went on to, I want to say it right, Buffalo State.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And you played college hockey. And then I remember when we started working together, you were still playing to the point that you've had a couple surgeries and some things to repair hips. And now you're on the coaching side, which is fun. So take your coaching lens here, and we're going to transition a little bit to what do you see out of the Seattle Kraken this year, since you're a hockey expert, because we know Kevin doesn't watch hockey.
So I love two of our pickups that we've gotten this year, Stevenson and Montour. They have just like fit into the systems so well. I think it helps that since Bilesma's new and let's go Jessica Campbell.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
I think since those two have introduced new systems to the team, the incoming players have had a little bit of an easier time adjusting to those new systems because they knew that they were coming in having to learn something new anyway. But I love the way Montour just attacks the puck like offensive defenseman. It just goes after it and is always either clearing pucks out of the middle on our end or is jumping into a play on the offensive zone. I mean, he got a hat trick earlier this year, is for a defenseman, not typical. And so I'm excited about the way they're playing this year. I feel like they're on the offensive just in general more. Our power play looks a lot better, a lot cleaner. And the Kraken just, again, are kind of stepping up more versus like waiting to see what other teams are doing.
Brandon Montour is so awesome. Like Kevin and I have talked. He is so fun to watch. I was really skeptical of Chandler Stevenson because of some stuff I read about him taking a step back last year in Vegas and maybe being a step slow, where he's a little older and they gave him a long contract. The thing I liked a lot, and I would love your perspective from hockey, your team, all teams. This is my novice thing. My thing with hockey is face-off percentage, win percentage. Mel appreciates it. Okay. So I feel like the Kraken, I mean, they've struggled to score. Like they still aren't a great scoring team. I agree with you. They look better, but you got to win faceoffs. And that's where maybe Matty Beniers and now Shane Wright's not even with the big club have been a little disappointing. But Chandler Stevenson wins faceoffs, right? So that's exciting for me. So do you agree, like philosophically, that, I mean, maybe that's a dumb question because everybody wants to win faceoffs, but.
So I'm Kevin, I'm a center, so my also bias goes to I want to win the faceoff.
Nice.
I think not only winning the faceoff's important, but it's that like second step after the faceoff. So even if like Stevenson per se technically loses it, are we getting that second person in to then gain possession? And so like it's a mix of two things. Winning that faceoff is important because that's like the only time in hockey, to relate it to like other sports, you have kind of a set play. And even then it's more fluid, but like it's that second step in to either make sure you're containing possession off of that, or like you don't want to lose possession right after your center gets it like perfectly back to your defense. So yeah, I love that stat. I'm watching it throughout the game. Like I'm like, hey, look, we're winning the faceoff percentage. You're like, nope, it's back to like 47, whatever. I'm always paying attention to it.
I think I learned this from Mel, Kev. I think that's where I got it from, but it's exciting. Okay, so how can people, well, let me ask you one question. Kevin and I did some over-under guesses at the beginning of the year, and we put the number for the Kraken at 95.5 points is what we felt like. Let's set it, and I think we went over optimistically. We were excited. I think they'll need that to be in the playoff hunt. Yeah. Would you say they'll go over? Based on how they're playing? I mean, they're right at 500, right? They're basically 10, 10, and 3 or whatever they are, 10, 10, 1.
This is hard for me because I see like good things happening. I have a lot of confidence in our coaching staff, and that's not just bias that Jessica Campbell's there. Yeah. She's an incredible coach and knows the players so well. But the thing we're missing that we touched on, that you just touched on too, is we don't quite have that like goal scorer yet, or at least no one's stepping into that where, you know, there's 8 minutes left in the game and you need one more goal just to solidify it. We don't quite have that guy who's just like doing that and able to score. So that's where my hesitation is on going on the over under. I'm excited because I'm seeing so many good things, but hesitant because we don't have that like quick strike goal scorer.
I feel like we need Jared McCann to be our second best scorer, not our best scorer.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Mel, how, coming back to your role here and people listening to talk about hockey, how can people support women's hockey? Yeah.
So come to our home games, which follow the Instagram, come to our home games. Tickets are only $5 and the money goes directly to the team. So you are helping college students pay for flights and pay for travel to all these games and pay for ice time. So your money's going to a good place. You can also just donate directly to the UW club as well. And if you donate through the UREC department, you can also get the taxable letter. So that's good for everybody. And then also, if you love women's sports in general, go to the Rough and Tumble, because not only is it like great food, great atmosphere, but Jen Barnes over at the Rough and Tumble just plugs every like women's Seattle sport. So if you just don't even know what sport you want to get interested in, like go there, you'll meet someone and you will be supporting women's sports. And the last thing I'll say is there is a PWHL game coming here to Climate Pledge on January 5th.
Yeah.
So go to that because you'll just get to watch some absolutely incredible women's hockey, and you'll meet tons of hockey people there and find more ways to continue to support and grow the game. And I would say don't hesitate on all the little things, like just even mentioning it to someone in passing always makes a difference.
Awesome.
That was the best call to action that I've probably heard.
Yes,
that was
good.
Better than all of these politicians the past two. That was wonderful. How are we going to end this?
I mean, that's it. We want to leave it with Mel and the call to action. Like, I would just, piggyback on Mel, like go support women's sports. Kevin and I think one consistent thing we've talked about on this podcast is women's sports. We've interviewed Sam Hyatt was our first guest, which is very cool. And if you don't know if you love hockey, just go watch Mel coach. Mel's awesome. Just go watch Mel coach. And it'll be a great time. So Mel, do you know your next home game, or is it kind of in flux because of the schedule this year?
No, so our next home game is not for a while. So the only downside of playing all these games is we have a ton of away games, but our next home game will be February 14th and 15th. So like I said, a little whiles away, but 14th and 15th. The following night, week is on February 22nd is senior night. And last time we had senior night, we got the Husky band out to KCI and they played the UW song when we scored goals. It was pretty incredible.
Oh, that's incredible.
Fun atmosphere.
Yeah. We want people, here's what we want you to do. We want you to put in your calendars February 14th, 15th, or February 22nd to go watch UW women's hockey.
Let's go.
We know a lot of planners who listen to this podcast, or at least maybe I do. Maybe that's just my age. Lots of dads and moms who have to plan their lives. Put in your calendar, go do it. It'll be awesome. Mel, we thank you very much. It's always awesome to see you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All
right.
Top 5. Do we have music for this? I got 5 on it by the
No.
Loonies. Oh, okay. Well,
all right. I got a good one. A little off-season action for you.
Right, I'm ready.
Shout out to fellow Substack MLB Daily Dingers. Substack.com.
Nice.
They posted about home runs, and I loved this post that they had last week. It was about the last time every team had a 3-run home run game and which player did it. Okay. And then they listed all the players from that one team that had 3 home run games.
I don't understand what's happening.
Okay. Name the 5 players in Mariners history that have had 3 home run games for the Mariners.
Does a 4 home run game count?
It does count.
Mike Cameron.
Mike Cameron is one.
Well, there are going to be some random dudes on this list, aren't there? Can you give me a year or something? Like,
I mean, there's a lot of The last one was in 2019. The last one was 2019. Some of them are going to be obvious too.
How about Nelson Cruz?
Nelson Cruz never had a 3-run home run game. That's one strike.
That's a strike. A-Rod.
A-Rod did it once.
Okay. I don't think Griffey did it. I don't think he did. I'm not going to guess him. I don't want you to say anything. You know who I really want to guess, but I'm not, is Dae-Ho Lee. He was my favorite. I loved Dae-Ho Lee. That half season.
He seems like a 3-run home run.
Dude, he was so rad. Cal Raleigh?
No. So you only get 2 strikes?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm out.
Okay. Well, Ken Griffey was 1. 3.
Okay.
Kyle Seager was the last one to do it in 2019.
Yeah. That's who I should have.
Okay, let me just read the rest of the names.
Yeah, give him.
Jose Lopez.
Awesome. Loved him.
Edgar.
Yeah.
Ken Griffey did it twice.
I suck. I should have just gone with big names.
Mariners manager Dan Wilson did it once.
That's rad.
Mickey Brantley.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're getting into territory where this is my your territory. Childhood. Yeah.
Mickey Brantley.
Jim Presley.
Give me Jim Presley. Kev, let me tell you about Jim Presley. Have I told you this before?
No.
Okay, so Jim Presley was the third baseman before Edgar.
Yeah.
In fact, Edgar would have had better total counting stats if it wasn't for Jim Presley, because he was blocking him at the position, which everybody at the time knew was dumb. Edgar had insane minor league numbers, but Presley made an all-star team. And this is my point. When I played baseball in 4th grade, we had cards with your picture on it.
Yeah.
And you had a bio on the back, and it says, I have one of these still. Favorite Mariner, Jim Presley.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It might have been before 4th grade, because in 4th grade, I would have said King Griffey Jr.
You probably in your childhood watched Jim Presley's 3-run home run game.
I probably did. You're probably right. Yeah. That's what it was. Okay.
All right, here are the 2 others. Gorman Thomas, who I've never heard of, and Jeff Burroughs.
Jeff Burroughs, if I have this right, is Jeff Burroughs the guy that played for the Kirkland Little League team that played in the Little League World Series, or is that a different Burroughs?
Well, I have his Wikipedia pulled up, and It doesn't say.
Oh, it's Sean Burrows. I wonder if
Yeah.
it's his son. It's his son who played for Kirkland because Jeff Burrows played in Seattle.
What's crazy? He only
And
played 1
sadly,
year in
Sean
Seattle.
Burrows died of fentanyl. So there you go. Big
Oh
downer. Big
gosh.
downer. I probably
Uh,
didn't need to say that. I just made it a big downer in the podcast. Sorry. But
you got a
that's
top 5 for me?
I do. Let's
All right.
transition. All right. Kev, you love recruiting, as
Yeah.
you mentioned to Mel on our interview. And the Husky basketball, who we're a little sad about and worried about. Maybe there's hope. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little context and then we're going to jump into the top 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, we got to provide listeners with news. Not everybody reads the recruiting sites like you do. So the Huskies had National Signing Day and signed 2 4-star basketball players this last week, I think. So Cortland Muldrew, 4-star guard,
Yeah.
and JJ Mandiquit from Hawaii, the highest rated basketball recruit out of Hawaii ever, 4-star recruit.
Yep.
Do you know anything about these 2 dudes? Have you done any
Mandiquit
research on them?
is like he was I think he's really exciting to get. Just a quick plug for Sprinkle. He in his system, from what I've heard, needs a certain type of point guard. So I think this is his certain type of point guard. But
Cortland Muldrew is an Oak Hill guy, which is interesting. I mean, Oak Hill's a storied program.
Yeah.
I don't know who else was trying to get him. I feel like he was a fairly early commit, if I remember right.
Yeah.
It says he considered Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Oklahoma State, Creighton. So good basketball schools. So they have these 2 guards, Adam Tazum Diallo and Jace Butler, who are both 4-star freshmen this year. Jace Butler's a freshman, I think, right?
Yeah.
So they got 4 4-star guys.
Wait, can I add one more thing?
Of
They
course.
signed a JUCO player, a 7-footer from France, a couple days ago. His name's Matty Traore.
Oh, they did. That's right.
Yeah. I think he played at Maryland and then jumped back to JUCO.
He's had an interesting route.
Yeah, I don't know how good he is, but it's a 6'11" guy from France.
He was wanted. This is always hard. Like, who really was offering him? But supposedly, like, some big schools wanted him.
Yeah.
It says he had offer. Oh, well, I guess. Yeah, he has a hard route. But originally, the Indianas and the Oregons and USC's and Auburns and Floridas and all these schools wanted him. So who knows who wanted him now? But he's a big guy. Anyway, all this to say, I want you to tell me. I had to go through every year on Rivals to find this information. Okay.
I had to guess the 5 stars.
You do. I have 7 5-star Husky recruits.
Do they have had to play for them? Did they have to play for them?
Well, I'm going to take one out.
So Webster's out.
Martell Webster's out. He never played for the Huskies, but I guess he didn't sign technically. I don't know how that worked back then. If you could sign a letter of intent and then get out to declare for the draft. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Martell Webster, who I coached ish. I was an assistant coach, a 5-star. Okay. So there's 6 left. So it's top 6.
Here we go. Spencer Haas,
another Seattle Prep product. By the way, can I pause you for a second? Nice guess.
Yeah.
His year, Spencer Haas 5-star, Quincy Pondexter 4-star, Phil Nelson 4-star, Adrian Oliver 4-star. That's a recruiting class.
Yeah.
Those guys were supposed to be incredible. Didn't work out.
Okay. Pondexter worked out.
No, Pondexter's incredible. And this is going to get to my larger point at the end, but go ahead.
Markel Fultz.
Yes, he's theoretically the best recruit they've ever had. He was 100 overall. God. He was the number 1 overall pick. So
yeah, was Tony Roden a 5-star?
Go with your instincts.
Tony Roden,
a 5-star from Garfield High School. Tony Roden, by the way, when I was coaching at that time, like the legend of Tony Roden ended up being bigger than Tony Roden. Like, it was incredible. The stories about Tony Roden. It's kind of, and Jamal Crawford's kid is kind of entering that territory.
Well, Will Conroy's kid is not in Seattle anymore. He's in LA. But
I didn't know that. Okay.
I heard Will Conroy's kid is actually pretty good too. Will Conroy Jr.
Yeah. JJ Crawford, Jamal's son, is supposedly really, really good.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. He has
Well,
an
I
offer
might.
from Rutgers, I think, or something.
He's got 3 offers, and he's
Oh my
playing. He's
gosh.
playing CYO basketball in 8th grade, by the way. So I might be coaching against him this year.
Good luck.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I need 2 more. This is actually going to be really hard. Because they had some big ones with Romar at the end and Sprinkle at the start.
You have no strikes, so you can just feel free. Let it loose.
John Brockman.
No, 4-star.
He's a 4-star.
That's a good one though, because Duke wanted him.
Yeah.
So feels like he should have been a 5-star.
Yeah, so Michael Porter Jr. never ended up.
No, he would have been like in the Martell category, because I found a press release with Michael Porter Jr., Dejon Davis, and Jalen Noel. That would have been incredible. Also, I think I've told you this before. The rumor was if Michael Porter Jr. had gone to UW, Trae Young was coming,
That's insane.
because they played AAU together and they really enjoyed each other.
Yeah.
And so they could have had Trae Young, Dejon Davis, Jalen Noel, and Michael Porter Jr.
It's
in
going to be
class.
really hard for me to get to the.
Okay, there's 2 guys that came in together. They were both 5-stars,
They came in together.
and they played for Hopkins.
Yeah, see, I'm not going to get those guys. I
Okay.
stopped paying attention.
Well, then there's one more who's out of Tacoma, and it would have
Isaiah
been
Thomas.
Roma. Isaiah Thomas, 4-star. That's your second strike. I'm thinking of Abdul Gaddy, one of the best players.
Yes. He was
I
the
ever
number
coached
one
against.
player ranked. He was Derrick Rose was number 1, Abdul Ghani was number 2. I think or it's someone else. It's
Abdul
some
Gaddy
major-
now is on the staff, which is
Yeah.
great. I have a running joke with my brother-in-law's brother. Okay, so family,
Yeah.
external family, who I told him I was coached against Gaddy. I coached against him when he was a sophomore. Him and Avery Bradley were incredible at Bellarmine Prep, and Gaddy was so good. His vision, his size, he should have been an NBA point guard. And I don't, it happens.
Yeah.
And I told my brother-in-law's brother, Nick, I said, Nick, he's going to be incredible. And he never was. And every time he'd watch a game, he would see me and go, I thought you told me Gaddy was going to be good.
Yeah.
To the point that I texted him this summer and I said, look who's on staff, Abdul Gaddy. And he's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe he could coach better than he can play,
Yeah. To be fair, he's up on the leaderboards at UW.
He played a lot of games.
4-year starter.
Yeah.
All right.
He just never popped.
Yeah, he never became the number 2 guy behind John Wall. John Wall was the best point guard. He was Gotti was number 2.
Yeah.
He ended up playing had a decent pro career.
Yeah.
Had a good pro career.
It's just, but this is going to get to my larger point. So here are the other 2, Isaiah Stewart and Jaden McDaniels. We're on the same team, 5-star.
God, how did I not get that?
They're both in the NBA. They're both. Jaden McDaniels is a very useful player. He's having a rough year this year, but he's got paid. Isaiah Stewart's got paid.
Yeah.
Isaiah Stewart really likes to get in fights, but they're both 5-stars. So Fultz, Stewart, McDaniels, Webster, Haas, Gaddy, Roten, all 5-stars. I don't know. There's not an all-star appearance among those guys in the
Haas
NBA.
never. Oh yeah, it's hard to make.
No, they've had NBA careers.
Yeah.
Some of them longer than others, right? Like Fultz is not even on a team right now, as far as I understand, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because he actually played okay last year, but Roten really barely had a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Gaddy, I don't even know if he played a game, right? The best 3 players to me in the last 15, 20 years are Brandon Roy, 3-star, Brockman, 4-star, Isaiah Thomas, 4-star.
Yeah.
So I don't know what this tells us other than it's really hard to project 17-year-olds, which makes sense. I'm not saying any of those guys shouldn't have been 5-stars, but projecting where a guy's going to go from age 18, 17 to 21, 22, if you're lucky to have him that long, is really hard.
Wild that Fultz is only 26 years old and he's had a 7-year NBA career.
Yeah, and he's not on a team, right? That's wild too.
Nuts.
So maybe Sprinkle doesn't need 5-stars is the point. We get caught up in recruiting. Same thing in football. We can go through, we did this on one of our earlier podcasts, the best recruits in Husky history.
Yeah.
And, some of them don't end up panning out. And whereas a guy who's a 3-star, 4-star, like Brandon Roy, now part of it was his knees, even in high school, but he's a 3-star. Brandon Roy
Yeah.
was sick at UW even
Yeah.
before he went to the
Yeah.
NBA. He was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas was a 4-star. I mean, he's
Yeah.
5'5" or
Yeah.
whatever he was, but he was awesome.
Yeah. My counterpoint is if you stack 4-star and 5 stars, that's when you're going to be good, right? So, like, you look at your Kentuckys and your Dukes and the Gonzagas of the world. Like, yeah, some of these 5 stars aren't going to pan out, but if you stack them, like, some of these teams are going to be like really good.
But like
Yeah.
Calipari has struggled with that at Kentucky. He's had the number 1 to
Yeah.
number 5 class. He's had all these one and dones. His NBA record's incredible with all these dudes,
Yeah.
but he hasn't been able to win
That's a
in the
good point.
tournament. I
Yeah.
mean, the one and done format at the NCAA is tough anyway.
Yeah.
But there is something to having, and maybe Sprinkle style will work this way, is having some dudes who play in the system who are the right guys, like you said about Mandaquit, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe he's the right type of point guard. And that's what Gonzaga's done.
Yeah.
They are getting dudes,
5
right?
stars.
But they're
Yeah.
also getting like European men to come over who probably have been smoking in between games. I just assume all the European guys like Luka Doncic and Arvydas Sabonis. It's terrible. But they get these men, or they'll do what they did where they took Dan Dick out years ago and Nigel Williams-Goss from UW who weren't panning out, and they know how to develop guards.
I forgot Goss.
And you know that I don't like Gonzaga. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they 100% know how to develop guards. And they develop players, they make them better.
They
And
know how to
now
develop forwards too. I mean,
they
remember the
do,
Kelly
but
Olynyk story where he took a year off and then came back as one of the best players?
that's true. Their player development in general is insane,
Yeah.
right? And there's other schools like this. And I just wonder if maybe that's the Sprinkle route, is like find the right dudes.
Yeah.
He doesn't need 5 stars. Don't freak out. The fact that he's getting 4-star guys is important. We don't want 2 stars or no star guys.
Yeah.
You have to have talent. But
Well,
but
I mean, it's a great start, right? After
Yeah.
basically not, I mean, he's marketing. I've been in the NCAA tournament 3 years. You're at UW. You're gonna
Yeah.
play. You're gonna play in the Big Ten. Like, I think it's not a hard sell, but like to just be in your first season here and not really have any track record at UW,
Yep.
it's impressive.
Yep. All right.
Mhm.
Well, we'll see where they go.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens over Thanksgiving
Yeah.
week. We're going to do a Thanksgiving episode next week, Kev. Don't you
That
think?
sounds good. Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
after Thanksgiving, technically, but it'll still be the season of thanks. And so maybe
Yeah.
we can do a little things we're thankful for in the Seattle sports landscape.
And we're thankful to you for listening, and we'll see you next week. How'd you like that ending?
That was so
pretty.
good.
That was pretty fresh.
Okay. If only we had outro music.
All right. Take care.